I'm about to share with you the absolute most important thing I learned in college. When I figured this out, this one lesson, everything changed for me. I've gotten a lot of different advice in my music career. It started off in freshman year of high school where I was playing percussion and oboe at the same time, where people would tell me, you should really stick to that oboe because it'll make you a lot of scholarship money when you go to college. Yes, I did play the oboe. It was my first instrument. You can see a picture here of how excited I was about it. While I was getting that advice, I was thinking to myself, but I don't want to make a career out of the oboe. I don't want to play the oboe in college. Why would they give me a scholarship for it? Later on, the advice became, you should get a degree in music education instead of music performance, because then if music doesn't work out, you always have a plan B. But in my mind, I was thinking, should a kid's education really be someone's plan B? And then the advice became, you don't want to focus too much on drum set. You should keep focusing on orchestral percussion. But I was thinking, I know I don't want to be in an orchestra. I want to play the drums. Why in the world would I keep working on glockenspiel excerpts? Then the advice became, don't practice that snarky puppy stuff so much. You should be focusing on Philly Joe Jones. But I was thinking, I could practice both. That's a possibility. I like both of them a lot. And this is when I put it together. This is when I figured it out. This is the moment. The most important lesson I could have possibly learned ever in college was this right here. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Everyone's advice is cheap. Say it with me. Everyone's advice is cheap. Your advice is cheap. Your teacher's advice is cheap. My advice is cheap. Yes, my advice is cheap. I'm not saying don't take anyone's advice. I'm not saying all advice is bad. What I am saying though is that the person who gives you advice will be affected very little by the outcome of their advice on your life. Think about it. Who has to actually deal with the consequences of your choices? It's not your teacher. It's not your professor. They already have a job. It's not the stranger who challenges your professional choices. They're probably not going to exist in your life. It's not even the guy on YouTube giving you advice right now. The consequences of your choices are on your shoulders and on your family's shoulders, and those shoulders only. But most people don't give advice from that kind of perspective, do they? They always give their advice from the perspective of, this worked for me, so it'll work for you too. So your responsibility in that situation is to be discerning. Is the result that would come from taking this advice at face value going to lead me in the direction that I want my life to go in? If the answer is yes, then take that advice. But if it's not, then even if it's from an authoritative source, you probably should ignore it. See, this is where I think we go wrong. We start to think, well, my teacher said this. Well, my professor said this. Well, someone who's important in my life, they said this, so I think I should follow it. But the important question is not who said it, but what is the result that will come from following that advice? Well, what does good advice look like? Good advice moves you towards your goals. So before you can know what good advice is, you've got to know what your goals are. A good advisor is someone who will ask you what exactly your goals are and find a way to help move you towards them. A bad advisor is someone who thinks they know what your goals should be without asking you what your goals are. Also, the best advisors are people who are actually doing what you want to do. But remember that no matter who your advisor is, their advice is cheap. Giving you advice is not going to cost their life very much, if anything at all, but you taking their advice, if it's the right advice or the wrong advice, is going to have a huge effect on the success of your future. Keep a really close eye on who exactly you're taking your advice from. As always, if you found this video valuable, I want you to know that a like or a share makes a big difference in helping me reach more people with it. If we're meeting for the very first time, it's nice to meet you. My name is Paul. On this channel, I do vlogs, I do drum cams, and I also do videos like this where I give the little bit of knowledge that I have gained as a freelance musician and try to share it with you all. If that's something you're interested in, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel so that you're updated on my next video, because more of them are coming. There's a lot of negativity out there in the music world. What I want you and me and you to do is to lock arms, lift each other up, and rise together. I'll see you in the next video, my friend.